Welcome back to another Take the Lead podcast. I am your host, Tara Chantel. We have another bag talk session where we dive into the spiritual bag within. I have someone so special to us, MJ, the author of Badass Black Woman. You are an educator, you do it all, but you are really so wise informing us just about our authentic power. And you're from Haiti as well. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to chatting about everything.
Yes, and I just want to start with, since you're from Haiti and everything that's going on there, how are you taking it?
I mean, it's been a little concerning. Of course, I was shocked by what happened. I mean, I know Haiti and it's been such a complicated country for a long time. So the fact that something big happened wasn't surprising. But I mean, I was still experiencing shock when I learned about the killing of the president. And I'm worried too because I still have family there. I have sisters there, nieces and nephews, and it's been a mess. The investigation is still going on. Places are still closed. The funeral this week. I mean, there's a lot to going on, a lot to swallow.
It is, and so much to unpack. And I just commend your strength as well. But this is something that we should not take lightly and should not just go past us, especially like people in America, because it's not getting, the news is not out like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot, yes, but well, we get to live another day, and we have to make the best out of it.
We will. That's what, and I just admire how positive you are and everything that you write about from Badass Black Girl. I really want to dive deeper into this book because it has just tapping into our authentic power. What does your authentic power mean to you, and how do we divinely step into it?
Well, I've always been known to be someone who tells it like it is. As a kid, it got me in trouble. People really thought that I was too forward with what I had to say. But I mean, I was always proud of who I am. I knew deep down that I was a good person. So I always trusted that whatever I had to say, even if it disturbed the status quo, it was for good. It was for a higher purpose, right? So I've never been afraid to talk about things that are unfair. I do come from a culture of silence. I am from Haiti, and you usually don't want to talk about certain topics, and there are very specific roles that specific people have to play. So I was considered a troublemaker because I've always wanted to build my own career. I've always wanted to be able to be expressive, and I became a writer very early. So it means a lot to me to be able to speak the truth, not just my truth, but what it means to be a black girl in the world, in the Caribbean, in the United States, in the whole world. And it's important for me to be able to talk about those things because I do understand that I was gifted with this determination and this nonsensical approach to who I am. But many of us do struggle with our identity and our right to express ourselves.
Oh my goodness. It has gotten to a point that we are even scared to speak the truth because now this world we're living in is so sensitive to it. So imagine a powerful black woman speaking her truth and saying no. How did you unprogram your unprogram the mindset to step into your enoughness, because sometimes we have this lack as a woman, like we need this and we need that to feel whole. How did you step into that?
I can credit reading. I read a lot when I was a kid. I came from a very difficult country, but also a very complex family where things were not always rosy. There was a lot of violence at home. And very often I used reading to find a safe space, right? To find a place that was mine where I could feel that that I somehow, somewhat had agency, right? Because I could control what I read and how long I read for. And what I learned from the books is that you have to be able to work on yourself. So very early I started reading self-help books. Like I was in middle school and reading books that adults and or young adults were reading, right? And I was very intrigued by the idea of being able to master my feelings, because you can imagine, with everything going at home, my parents arguing, my dad eh, ready to beat up everybody, and the violence in the streets, I was dealing with all kinds of emotions. I was angry, I was sad, I was afraid, I was desperate at times, and I wanted to be able to be the master of my emotions, where nothing on the outside could affect my feelings. So I was reading all the books because of that, until I realized two things. First, it's really unrealistic to think that you're gonna reach a point where you're not feeling anything. And feelings are important because they keep you centered. They let you know um, in what way you're interacting with the world in this very moment, right? If you're sad, I mean, you have to just accept your sadness and figure out why you're sad. If you're afraid, you it's an instinct, right? It's an animal feeling. You're afraid because something is wrong and you need to figure out how to get out of the situation. So that's the first thing I realized, that my goal in reading those books was not necessarily the right one, because I did not want to become so zen that I'm not experiencing all those beautiful feelings that are helping me grow. And the second thing was that many of those books did not cover topics that were important for me at that stage, right? I'm a black girl. I'm very aware of colorism, for instance. I grew up in an all black nation, so racism is not necessarily rampant, but colorism is, where the blacker you are, the less status you have. And classism is another issue where people who don't have any money are looked down upon, right? And people try to argue that no, it's not a real problem, there's no colorism, but really, you enter a store, the person with the light skin is going to get better service than the person who looks darker. And if you look like you have more money, I think whatever country you're in, there is this perception that you're important because you have money. And those books did not tell me how to deal with stuff like colorism and racism. And how are you supposed to deal with the fact that whenever you turn on the TV, I grew up in the 90s, a lot has changed now, not enough, but something has changed. Some of the things that I dealt with, at least they're different now. But it was very difficult for me to turn on the TV and find movies or TV shows where the main characters were black, unless those movies were specifically about the civil rights movement or racism. And the message that I got from all this was that outside of that history, the history that we have of slavery, not just in the Caribbean, but in the United States, other than the fight for rights, I was not allowed to exist. I was not allowed to have a regular life where I'm just being a girl. I always had to be like a black girl, with just talking about slavery, racism, the fight for rights, and I just wanted to be a normal girl who doesn't have to worry about those things.
Yes.
So it became important for me to try to find resources that I could use because they existed, but not they were not as prevalent as what was considered quote unquote mainstream, meaning non-black, right? So I was really focused on finding books about black authors, finding documentaries, not just about our history as as black people all over the world, but just stories about just being black and maybe a romance book, right? Or a romance movie where it was not just about the struggle associated with being black, but also the beauty and sometimes the insignificance of things during your day. Where you're just a person living any person's life. So all this being taken into consideration, because I was fighting for finding those things and finding the balance between, yes, the world thinks that I'm less than, but I'm not less than because I know who I am. It became even more important for me to develop it even more and help other people reach the stage where they're very aware of other people's perceptions, but they know who they are so well that it doesn't matter. I mean, it shouldn't matter that someone else doesn't like you. It shouldn't matter that someone thinks that you're not as intelligent or as pretty. I mean, they're lost. I know. I know the beauty that there is in my skin. I know the beauty that there is when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with my hair today. I mean, they're lost, like I said.
Wow. And being around these lost individuals when you actually have been doing the work, I call it like the inner work, just discovering yourself. How do you like maneuver and find that balance around being all of these unconscious people and embracing the healing journey that you're on?
I mean, I always try to live by example, meaning that now we're having this conversation, and I'm so thankful we're kind of talking about things out loud. But those conversations, I'm not necessarily having them every day, but I show up, I'm sure of what I'm doing, and I make sure that I lift other people up so that they understand that there is much more lifting to be done around us, right? Lifting other black women, and also if someone says something that I disagree with, making sure that I voice my opinion. um for instance, very often I'm like the token black person in certain situations, and people expect so much from me in terms of what's your opinion on this, on that, and I'm quick to remind them, you know what, that's my opinion. Please don't take it as uh, every black woman's opinion. For instance, if your neighbors invite you to um, their book club, right? And they're like, oh, I'm reading a book by a black woman, and I would love for you to come and give your insight as a black woman. I'm quick to tell them, well, I'm coming and I'm giving you my insight as MJ, who happens to be a black woman, but don't believe that everything I say should be considered representative of every black woman out there. I mean, it's ridiculous. So that's what I mean by being a token in so many situations. It's not just, the token black friend that many people have, just like they have a token gay friend. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people relying excessively on me to open up the door to black culture and black life, and I'm like, that's a lot that you're putting on my shoulder. Eh, right? Welcome to my world as MJ, and I have a lot of knowledge about Black culture, whether it's Caribbean culture or African American culture in America. But what it's so vast and so rich, right? Our history, our culture, that it's still limited. You cannot get it all from me. So I'm just vocal and I say things the way they are so that people are not mistaken. They know where I stand, they know where I'm coming from. And I always make sure that other people know that I'm all about uplifting Black women. I'm all about making sure that we don't get um, discarded, because historically speaking, a lot of that has been happening. Not always, right? Not every situation is damped with racism, but in many cases they are. The situations are. So I make sure that I remain awake.
Wow, always awake. And it's just so remarkable the courage that you have to stand up, especially for us overall throughout the whole journey. And I really love how you mentioned about colorism. How do you handle colorism while still focusing on women empowerment?
Well, the first thing is I don't always assume that it's colorism, right? Because so often we're in a situation where we're treated badly, and it's so easy to assume that it's because of the way we look or who we are. So I always make sure that I understand the situation. Some people, for instance, if they don't like me, which happens, we always have that one person or a few that don't like us, no matter who we are. So I don't assume that it's because I'm Black, right? It might just be that they don't like me. They think that I speak too much, or that I look down on them for some reason, because sometimes I'm very quiet. I like to listen, and I I might have, a face that is not really inviting. I don't know. So I make sure that there's an issue, that the issue is identified, what is happening exactly. And when it comes to colorism, I always try to question people, like to question their actions. I remember I was talking to a friend, for instance. I went to the doctor with her, and her doctor was, we were in America, and the doctor was very Black and very overweight.
Mm.
And I could see on her face that the doctor was talking about what was going on with her. And I'm like, I'm kind of uncomfortable because I'm not even supposed to be in the room. It's like, it's a medical thing, but I went with her. And afterwards, I could see, like, oh, you know what? I just think that this doctor is just trying to make me take those extra tests because she wants to make money off of me. I'm sure I'm fine. And then I question her. I'm like, are you sure? Because as soon as she walked in, your face changed. And I think that because we're in America, you were expecting this particular doctor to be white and male. And now you're just not giving the doctor credit. And, she thought about it. Um, and she said, you might be right. It's really hard for me to imagine a doctor who's not only Black, but very Black. And I could see that because of her background. She was also from the Caribbean. She meant that usually, well, Black people are less educated or seen as if they are, because it's not true at all that they are. But that's what she was thinking, and she's like, you know what, I will do the test. And I'm like, okay, good for you, because I could see your face just change when you saw that non-white doctor enter the room. She was really disappointed.
Wow. And that is like awareness, how we have to really think things through and realize, why are we thinking certain things? Is that because of the media has ingrained that in us to make us feel like Black people are less educated, less than, and we can't go after our fulfillment. I would love to know, because I feel like we're on this journey trying to find this pursuit of happiness. We're trying to find happiness, but really is overall having this fulfillment throughout this journey. How did you find your fulfillment, and how can you tell our listeners how to dive closer into their fulfillment?
I think that it came with realizing that um, happiness 24/7 doesn't exist. Because ideally, when we really think about happiness, we imagine a state where everything is perfect, right? We have the perfect job and the perfect home situation, and we have a very fulfilled social life. I had to come to realize that um, I have to focus on joy, meaning moments where I am utterly joyful and I'm enjoying just being me. Because if you're aiming for a 24/7 situation, I mean, you're going to be disappointed because it just doesn't exist. And if you reach that point, you actually start getting bored. And that's why people with lives that seem to be perfect suddenly they get in trouble. They Because it's not that perfect. That's not really realistic, right? So I try to create many moments of joy. And I also understand that if this week, for instance, I'm not able to spend certain time on certain things, I can always catch up next time. I cannot be everything for everybody all the time. If I'm going to be a wife this week, then I know that I need to scale down on how much time I spend with friends and with family members. If I'm going to be a daughter, I'm the caregiver to my mom. So very often we have to go to doctor's appointments, and she's getting surgery soon. So she's going to have to get help during the recovery, right? So then I know that since I'm going to be a daughter, a good daughter during that time, I need to spend more time with friends and with my husband right now. So it's a balancing act so that you can create moments of joy where you're really enjoying being with the people you are. Where you understand, for instance, that if you have a passion, well, if you have more than one passion, you're going to have to select one over the other, and it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. That it just means that there are 24 hours in the day, and that you're gonna have to sacrifice one thing for the other. Sometimes you will feel nostalgic because you're missing one, but you will experience joy while you're doing the other. So this idea of being perfect, right? Of having the perfect life, of happiness being this enduring state. I mean, it's so not just unrealistic, but you're fooling yourself if you think that it's true. And one thing that I think about a lot is death. Like, we assume that we have all the time in the world, but I remind myself every day that you don't know when you're gonna go. And worse, you don't know where the people you care about are gonna go. I don't take anyone for granted. I enjoy my moments with them, my moments of joy whenever I can.
Wow. How do you handle death, that transition? Because that's like a lot of people don't want to talk about death, but we all that's a never ending process that we're all going towards. And how did you end up breaking away from that fear?
You know, there is this country song that I love a lot. eh, I can't remember the exact lyrics, so I'm going to paraphrase, but it says basically, love me as if it's the last day, right? As if I'm about to die or something like that. I'll find it and email it to you. But it's this idea that you have to think about death and you have to be able to talk about it. I guess what made it easier for me to talk about it is because I've been in situations where I've been very close to it. I mentioned growing up in a very difficult country, and it happened twice where I was in a situation where I almost died. It was in the wrong place at the wrong time. One time it was during a protest, and I found myself in the crowd, and people started shooting, and I found myself under a truck waiting for the shooting to stop. Another time I was at a party. The government thought that it was some kind of opposition gathering, and they stormed the place, and there was a lot of shooting there too. And I've seen death up close. There was one short story that I wrote about witnessing a man being burned right in front of my house when I was 8 or 9. So, coming from Haiti, I think it's a little bit more difficult not to think about death. And recently in the United States, with so many deaths that are being made public, when you think about black men and black women being killed by the police, and those tapes are everywhere for us to see and for us to re-experience that trauma over and over. I mean, I would rather speak about it because it's either being going to be shoved down my throat, or I'm going to experience it myself. With imagining what death is going to mean. I certainly think about my own death, so I am always making arrangements. Okay, if I die, I need to make sure that this is taken care of. So boring things like, okay, um, uh, s- um, a testament, for instance. I mean, I encourage people to make sure that they have one. And it doesn't matter whether you're a brand new in your career. If you're making a good bit of money and you have a saving, I mean, you need to decide who's gonna get it if you're not around. If there's someone who depends on you, whether it's a parent or a kid, you need to be able to make arrangements for when you're not around. And I mean, I've almost lost my mom twice. I became a caregiver after she had an aneurysm, and she was in a coma for a long time, and everybody thought she was not going to make it. It's surprising that she did, because she was already in her 60s. So I came so close to losing her that every time I see her, I remember that she's a miracle. And I started seeing everyone as a miracle, because it's so easy to lose people that we really have to love everybody as if it's the last time you're seeing them.
Wow. And and it's so simple, yet we let this life just get the best out of us. And I love how you mentioned about this perfection, because I see it so much in the internet and social media. We have women just being so mesmerized off of just the outside appearance and just trying to fit this mold of perfection. What do you think the way that life is going, dealing with social media, and how we are have this obsession about being perfect?
I mean, I'm concerned. Yes, I understand how it works, um, but I'm a little bit afraid about the people who are internet natives. When I was born, there was no internet, meaning that I had to learn about the internet when I was already a teenager. So I'm not a millennial, I'm a zennial, that generation before the millennials, that knew the world before internet and social media, but is now well imbued of what it means to be on social media. I understand that. I see social media as kind of an alternate reality where everyone is trying to be perfect, and I'm okay with that part. The fact that there is a platform where you're kind of publishing what matters to you. You post your best pictures and you're looking nice. The problem that I have is when people try to make you believe that this persona that they have online is the real person, or worse, when they start believing that they should be that person that is on social media. And I think that I'm particularly worried again with those younger people. The disclaimer here is that I just entered my 40s, right? So I'm really worried about people who are younger, who are really trying to be that persona, that online persona. And I've noticed that when I'm interacting with my students, it doesn't matter that they see all the filters that are being shown, and they know that all those magazines um, have been photoshopped, right? They still want to be that ideal person. And I think it's dangerous to have so much focus on the outside and to neglect the person that you're supposed to be on the inside. And with so much time spent outside of socializing face to face, I'm just worried that we're becoming more and more like the machines that worshipping, right? And I mean, even the scientists say it. They they had a group of people, 100 people in a room for a show, and they made an experiment. They had them have two different conversations. They were talking to a real person on their phone, and they were also texting with a bot. 42% could not make the difference between the two. And it shows that there is this relationship that we're developing with our machines, our social media. I mean, it's worrisome. We're losing the authentic aspect of our lives. And I'm not one of those old people who are like, oh, it's evil. You're spending all this time on the internet, right? But I think that you should find a balance. You should be able to schedule some time offline, meet with real people. And I would never be against technology. I have my Apple Watch. It tells me whenever I'm spending too much time sitting, it's like time for a walk. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a walk. I think by the same token, people should schedule time so that their phone or their app tells them time to socialize, or give a phone call instead of a face chat. You don't need to see everybody whenever you're talking to them. Sometimes you get so much more from someone's state of mind, about someone's state of mind, by listening to them instead of seeing them, because everybody has a facade now, and it's becoming more and more difficult to see through the facade. But the voice, someone's voice will tell you everything you need to know about how they feel and the kind of day they've been having.
Yes. Oh, that is amazing. And I notice more and more that this generation does have a lot of anxiety because of social media. How should we handle anxiety and protect our mental health?
You know, I've been thinking a lot this week about Naomi Osaka, who decided not to perform at certain tennis matches because she was not feeling well and she had to take care of herself. And I was talking yesterday about that with my friend Scotty. Um, People need to learn to be aware of their needs. A lot of people think that they know themselves well because they've been with themselves since they were born, and they spend 24/7 with themselves. But the truth is, if you're not paying attention, you don't really know yourself. Um, very, very often, what I do, I kind of stop everything. I sit, I take a moment, and I try to. I focus on all the different parts of my body, because people don't even listen to their body. Sometimes your body will tell you how you feel. And suddenly I'm like, oh, why do I have a pain here? You were not paying attention, so you did not even notice. And a lot of those pains have to do with anxiety. Like I will notice that, oh, my neck is stiff, which is a sign of overwhelm and stress, right? So you need to be aware. You need to remember to spend time, real time with yourself, feeling your body, the different parts. How do they feel? Is any part of your body stiff? Is there a pain that you don't understand? What can you do about that pain? But also be able to know how you feel about what's happening. I encourage everyone to journal. And I include a lot of prompts in my books, whether it's Badass Black Girl or the second book in the series, Empowered Black Girl, and even more in Resilient Black Girl, right? A lot of journal prompts and other activities for people to stop and just think about how they feel. Because once you learn how you feel, that's how you can avoid being so anxious, because you're like, okay, um, it's probably not a good idea to do this today because I'm feeling a little depressed. Maybe I should just do something that brings me joy. Maybe I'll go for a run instead, or I'll call my best friend and we'll go just shopping, or at least walk around Walmart or Target or whatever it is that, uh, wherever it is that you go to, right? So being aware of how you feel, this is how you conquer anxiety. And if you take time off and it's not working, if you're practicing breathing and it's not working, maybe you need to talk to someone. And sometimes this person needs to be professional. I'm a big advocate of just making sure that you get the kind of help that you need, that you go see a therapist. There are free options out there. Usually, if you're school aged, usually at the school, you can ask for a free resource. If you're an adult, the library is a great resource for local free therapists that you can see and talk about your issues. Or you can decide, you know what, I want to pay someone so that I can see them regularly and talk about my issues. I encourage everyone to do that. I mean, life can be hard. Life is tough, you know? So there's no shame in asking for help.
Yes, that's the first step because we're not meant to do it alone at all. And I know you are a huge advocate for affirmations. What affirmations of joy that we can say to ourselves? Because I feel like words are so powerful, they can speak life or death. So, what affirmations that we can speak to ourselves?
So, I talk a lot about affirmations in my second book, in the Badass Black Girl series, um, which is Empowered Black Girl. So it's the second book after Badass Black Girl. And I talk about the importance of having affirmations that are tailor made. So we all know about just standing in front of the mirror and saying, you know, MJ, you can do this, or talking to yourself positively so that you can do things. What I started doing, I started being more specific in my affirmations, and I started creating affirmations that have been inspired by some of the poets and strong Black women that came before us, right? So, for instance, I have affirmations to embrace your Black body, because sometimes we deal with body image issues because of the internet and that idea that we need to be perfect. So, for instance, I'll just close my eyes and I'll say things like, my body's soft, smooth, and rich. And I'm thinking about my own Black body, right? Or I'll think about my voice and I say, my voice is soft as honey, but my tone is powerful and wild like fire. Things like, my Black body is a beautiful vessel in all that it is and all that it is becoming. This body, my body, has a skin that shelters it with strength. I wear my Black body with pride. Black health matters. My health matters. So things like that, that are very specific to my Blackness, because the more specific you are, the more believable those are. And the thing with affirmations is that you have to repeat them often. They don't have to be complicated, they don't have to be long, but you need to really embrace them and repeat them constantly, because it's scientifically proven. The more you tell something to your brain, you start to believe it, but your brain also starts helping you find opportunities to make it real. So when people say that there is that you can, um the power of thinking positively, it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm all positive, so everything is suddenly magically going to be great and you start being unrealistic. No, it means that when you start talking positively and looking into how to make positive changing changes in your life, your brain starts filtering what it is not working for your goal and starts showing you what you have to see. It's just like when you're scrolling down Instagram, or you're looking at different channels on TikTok. Suddenly you start noticing a few things. There is a reason why you're noticing those accounts, why you're seeing those images. They were always there. It's just that in the past you scroll down. It's because you're focused and you're looking for something specific. So when you start using affirmations and focusing on certain things, your brain brings your attention to all those things that make this true. And that's how you're able to change your life.
Oh wow. That focus can really turn into that awareness that we need to be in. I believe that we should speak so much positively to ourselves. I hear most people, we have been programmed to speak negatively, like saying, "Oh, I'm gonna try to do this," instead of saying like, "No, I'm actually doing this." But words are so powerful, so we have to be aware of that and learning about just having that peace of mind and entering into our inner peace. How did you align with your inner peace?
I mean, um, I don't always experience inner peace, right? There are days where you feel like you're totally in control of your emotions, and there are days that are very stressful and scary. So it's a matter of trying to recenter yourself no matter what you're experiencing. It's like recognizing, you know what, I'm really agitated today, but this is what I'm going to do to find my center. So it's always calculating what you can do to go back to that center where you're you're calm and you can think straight. It's always the goal. It's kind of something that is not well calibrated, and you're trying to go back to where it's supposed to be. So I always try to be aware of how I feel, and journaling has definitely helped me. But also, I try to figure out what is it in my environment that might not be working in my favor. What is stressing me out? Some things you can get rid of. We have to bring a paycheck home, right? So if you have a job that you don't like, maybe you're working to get another one. You're working hard for that promotion, or you're working and going to school so that you can switch jobs. In the meantime, you just have to keep going to that job that you don't like. So there's nothing you can do for now, but at least you're working toward a bigger goal. But there are things that are stressing you, and I mean, you should just get rid of them. um I remember, for instance, I had a very active social life when I was in my 20s. And at some point, I started feeling very anxious. And then I realized, oh my God, it's because I never have time to just be with myself. I'm always at a party, always going to some kind of social event. So I started scaling back. Same thing. Sometimes you have people who are just sucking all the positive energy out of you. They mean well, but they're really negative and they're always bringing you down. And I'm sure that sometimes I'm this person for other people, because I might be having a bad day and someone is having an okay day, and then I start talking about my issues, and then I bring them down, and I'm sucking the energy out. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm being an energy vampire, please let me know and feel free to walk away, because I started really paying attention. I try not to be an energy vampire, and I try not to be around energy vampires. And sometimes there are people who are close to you, close friends and family members, but just sitting next to them, they bring the worst out of you. Everything's always dark, and the world is going to the shitters, and everything is doom and gloom. You know what? Walk away. It's really important to walk away.
Yes, you said, gotta go. I know. I love how realistic you are. Mentioning like it's not gonna be Skittles and rainbows, and especially like as being a Black woman, they always want us to be strong. How should we balance that not by taking off this cape and understanding that we can be vulnerable, but not being so emotional, so having that emotional intelligence around us as a Black woman?
For me, the definition of strength is the ability to know exactly what you can handle and what you can't handle.
Mm.
For me, a strong woman is not someone who's always like ready to for action, and who has the answer to everything, and who manages to be the perfect career woman, and the perfect mom, and the perfect everything. That's not what it means to me. Strength for me is the ability to say, you know what, I already have too much on my plate. No, thank you. Can you find someone else to help you? So this is another opportunity for you to just be vocal, right? To be able to say, you know what, I would love to do this, but I'm also dealing with this. So that you acknowledge all the great things that you're doing because you are a strong Black woman, but also acknowledging that you're a human as well. That yes, you can be strong, but if you put anything else in your plate, then you won't be able to be strong anymore. So you have to say no to so many things. I'm not afraid to show my vulnerability. I mean, um, if you're doing too much, you're just going to fail. You have to be focused, make sure that you don't bite more than you can chew, and go from there. And when I talk to my team members, for instance, I always tell them, if I give a lot of assignments, there's always a project, and I always say, you know what, not because I give you something to do, it means that you're not allowed to tell me, MJ, I'm also working on this and that project. Come and tell me, you know what, realistically, this is when I would be able to turn in this project. If I, I Otherwise, I mean, you're gonna be working 17-hour days, and that's not the deal that we had. So and I consider them all to be very strong women because they're good at what they do, and they are getting into the habit of voicing what they can and can't do. And for me, that's an even greater strength, right? Being able to acknowledge your humanity and uh, your limitations, because we all have those limitations because we're human.
Yes, the power in our voice and the power in know and not even have to explain ourselves. I feel like just being human, it makes sometimes we try to make it seem like if we feel bad for saying no and choosing us, but how do we get out of that program of not feeling bad for choosing us and choosing self-care?
I think it's with practice. The power of no, you have to start saying no in small situations, right? And what I did at first, because I wanted to please everybody when I was younger, and I started recording all the times when I said no. I'm like, okay, today I'm going to say no at least once. So it's practice. You have to practice it every day. And one thing that made it easy is when you give people alternative. When you say, well, I can't do this, but I can do that. If someone, for instance, asks me, well, you're such a great writer, can you please write this for me? And of course, they want me to do it for free because they're a family member or a friend. I'll tell them, well, I can't right now because pretty much I'm overextending myself already. But if you write it, I'll read and comment. So you can say no and give an alternative. But it's totally okay to just say no and not even give a reason. If someone invites you to a birthday party and you have no interest of going, you can choose to lie and say, you know what, I have a prior engagement. Or you can choose to just say no without having to give an explanation. And if someone insists, you can choose to say the truth and say, you know what, I don't feel like going out Saturday. And you might ruffle some feathers, but it has to be, at some point it has to be about your well-being. So practice makes perfect. I've been practicing saying no for a very long time, and the more you say no, the more comfortable you get saying no. So I mean, I'm also an entrepreneur, right? I work as a consultant for so many companies. I've said no to so many clients. Um, I needed the money, but when I looked at how stressful it's going to be, particularly when the person has an attitude that I'm not sure that I want to be around, I chose to say no and lose money rather than spend any more time with them.
You choose peace. That's peace right there. That is peace.
Choose peace. That's the advice of the day, right? Choose peace.
I love it. And I really love all of your books titles. They are so powerful, from resilient to empower woman to badass black girl and raising confident black kids. I really want to dive deeper into how should we raise beautiful black confident kids.
So I've been an educator for a long time, and one thing that I really cared about was just making sure that my kids felt that they were safe when they were with me. Because it's not always easy for kids who are dealing with a lot to feel safe, and it doesn't matter their race, it doesn't matter their gender. They want to feel like they belong. And because they spend so much time at school versus how much time they spend at home, they really need to feel that they belong and that they're heard. So one thing I tell parents about raising confident kids is to make sure that they give those kids an opportunity to express themselves. So many parents are like, oh, they are just kids, what do they know? But the thing is that if you really think about it, if you meditate and close your eyes, you can remember how it felt to be a kid. You might feel relief that you're not as naive or as ignorant than you were back then, because yes, a lot of learning is happening. So kids are ignorant about many things, but there are many other topics that they're not ignorant about, and they value it. They value being able to talk about those things and express themselves. So the first thing is being able to listen to the kids. That's something that is so important, and also help them discover who they are. Because if you don't tell them about their ancestors, if you don't tell them about the values that the family holds, and that why they're important, you're gonna let the world teach them those things instead. And those are not the lessons that you're gonna want them to learn. So I encourage parents, particularly black parents, to surround their kids with their rich culture. For instance, if you go, even something simple as decorating your child's bedroom, right? What about you put some posters of or paintings by African American artists, right? When you're introducing them to music, do not immediately say, "Oh, your music is so much inferior to the music I listen to." Appreciate what they listen to. You can have conversations about the lyrics if you think that the lyrics are inappropriate, but don't put it down because they love this stuff and they need to be able to find things that they like, but introduce them to other things as well, or introduce them to jazz, to classical music. And remember that the reason why we appreciate those types of music is because we associate them with a certain history, right? We like a certain type of music because it means something specific to us. So try to attach that meaning and teach them about um, jazz musicians and why they were important and what we've inherited from them. I mean, in your cooking, encourage them to learn about those ancestral meals that we got from our ancestors. I'm not saying for you not to introduce them to other meals, but they need to know what is theirs, what has been transmitted. It's about really celebrating Black culture so that they can be confident in who they are, and listening to them and having frequent conversations about racism, for instance, because sooner or later they're going to ask questions. They're going to ask what racism is. They're going to see it on TV. They're going to experience it themselves, even if it's a, a casual comment like you're beautiful for a black woman or for a black girl, which is more common than people would think. So have those conversations, make them feel that they are able to really open up to you and open up to them. Talk about what it was to be a child when you were their age. Talk about what you've learned from your parents. I think that the most beautiful thing is spending time together. It's very difficult to educate a kid that you barely see, that you barely show interest in. Read together, choose books that have powerful Black characters, read books that celebrate Black culture. In addition to all the other books that they're discovering at school and that you might um, help them choose at the library, just make sure that you're including your own culture. That's a key for raising confident Black kids.
Wow, you gave us such a great outline, like such a great outline for us. I don't want to I don't want I want to be cautious with your time, but I have a few more questions. Is that okay?
Absolutely, yes. Go ahead.
Awesome. As you mentioned about, oh, you are beautiful for a black woman. How do we handle these type of stereotypes, especially dealing with this era that we're in right now? Like, oh, she's mad because she's a black woman. She got an attitude. Like, how do we handle that being this powerful woman?
So, for me, and someone might disagree, right? You have to choose who you want to be a teacher for. I mean, some of those comments I'll hear them and I'll just ignore them because I don't think that it should always be on my shoulders to call people out. I will call people out when I care about them, or if what they're doing is affecting the life of someone else other than themselves. But if it's just an ignorant person being ignorant, and I mean, I'm not in the mood for it, I'm no longer forcing myself to be that teacher and say, "What do you mean for a black woman?" The person will make a comment and I'll just hear and keep on moving on, right? But if I feel that it's someone who's who needs to be put in their place, or someone who's saying it without even realizing it. I remember, for instance, I had a coworker, and she was telling me about this new employee. That was years ago, right? At one of my first jobs in America. She was trying to tell me who this woman was. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, Jane. She's new. She works in this or that department, and I still couldn't see." And she's like, "Yeah, she's really pretty for a black woman." And then she realized, oh shit, she's talking to me, right? I'm a black woman too. And she kind of tried to save the situation, and she pretended she did not say that. And she started just talking about how beautiful Jane was. And I was like, what do you mean for black women? Do you think that we're all ugly? And that started a conversation. And I mean, she was very careful the next time we spoke. But what I wanted to do, because I cared about this person, I wanted to for her to question what she was saying, because maybe it just slipped her mouth because she thinks it, but she never really questioned her thoughts. Because we do carry prejudice with us, we do internalize a lot of the messages that society um, forces on us, right? So we need, the same way that I want to be able to question everything I think that if you care about someone, or if you feel that they need your help to become better, to be better, you need to help them. And I helped her out by questioning what she was saying.
Yeah, we need those type of questions. Like we should question ourselves before we speak out anything, before we say anything outlandish like that. We should take a moment and pause to calculate our steps. I love that tremendously. And especially like dealing with these hard times and hard moments. I know you mentioned just about gratitude, and that is like the fundamental key that we should all dive deep into. Can you talk about gratitude for us before we close?
Yes, and that's another thing I encourage people to do in their journal, right? It's about recognizing that the world is not all darkness or all light. That what makes a normal day is that you're going to have things that work and things that go south, right? So you need to be able to focus on the positive. You have to choose that you're going to focus on the positive. So there are different activities that I recommend, and Badass Black Girl has some of them, and Resilient Black Girl has some more to help people just be grateful. So sometimes it's just about a list, right? You journal and you're like, okay, here are all the things that I'm grateful for today. Some people put things like, I woke up, I'm grateful for that, because some people were sick and now they're well, and they're just grateful for waking up. If you had lunch and you enjoyed it, even if you spent the entire day super stressed because you had a project to turn in, lunch was great. It was tasty. I put down, I'm grateful for lunch. If you can find three things every day that you're grateful for, it helps put you in a better mood the next day. And it helps put you in a better mood now so that you can go to bed and have a good night's sleep. Some other activities, exercises that I recommend: if you're really grateful for someone in your life, we've talked about death and how our time on earth is limited. Don't wait. Start writing gratitude letters. Surprise them. Maybe send it by the post office instead of sending it by email, but email is fine too. Or just send a text saying, you know what, I'm very grateful. And don't send one of those texts that look like you send it to everybody. Send a note that is very specific, that says, um, Tara, I'm grateful that you're bringing so much light through your podcast, that you're able to give a voice to so many people who are doing work in the community. I thank you for your light, because not every day is wonderful, but you certainly contributed to making my day wonderful today. Being specific like this and being able to voice those things. Sometimes it's a gratitude visit, right? Go see that person and say, I'm coming to see you. It's not for us to have a get together or party, because some people you only seem to see them when you have a schedule, um, a social time, right? I said, hey, can I stop by? I just want to see you. It's been a while. And stop by and just tell them how grateful you are in person. Those are things that really work. They make a difference in your life because it allows you to see the positive. You're trying so hard to get more from life that you forget that everything life is already giving you, and it allows you to bring light to other people. So yeah, absolutely be grateful.
Thank you, MJ, for all you do for us, for everything that you teach, for you using your voice, using your platform to speak truth to power. It means so much to us. How can we support you in any other way?
Well, I'm encouraging everyone to get the book. If you're not a black girl, you can get the book for a black girl in your life. I've received a lot of emails from women who say, you know what, I bought the book for a friend or a daughter, and now I'm all over the book and I'm waiting for the next one, because those are lessons that we can use no matter where we are in our life, right? So there's Badass Black Girl, Empowered Black Girl, Resilient Black Girl. If you visit badassblackgirl.com, you can learn more about all of those titles. Resilient Black Girl is coming out in September. I'm really, really excited. I'm also working on a series for boys now, because the parents kept asking me, what about your male students? You forgot all about them and they need those books. So, Black and Resilient is coming out in April of next year for the boys. So, I'm really excited about that too. I'm on Instagram. I'm encouraging everybody to follow me. My handle is at Badass Black Girl Books. And I mean, I post many things every day, tips on how to improve different things, whether it's how to improve your your peace, or just improve your work environment or your home office. I try to really help people create a balance and, as you say, choose peace.
Hmm. How do we be a badass black girl?
You know, every one of us has that badass black girl inside of us trying to come out. It's just about being more aware, being more vocal, discovering who you are, who you want to be, discovering what it is that you want to accomplish in life, and really giving yourself time to get there, making sure that every day you have some time for yourself to journal, to think, to plan the life that you want without neglecting the life that you're living right now. And you'll get there. I mean, so many badass black girls and women out there. I mean, we're shining. We're really making a difference in this world.
We are badass. We are. What would the world do without us? I thank you, MJ. And I just have to get one last, because the resilience is so powerful using that word. What does that mean to you?
To me, is someone who understands that life can be tough, right? Because when you hear resilient, it's about um, pressure being um, put on you and you resisting that pressure. So it's about understanding that life can be tough and kind of putting yourself in a situation when you're able to deal. I'm not saying that you're on a cloud where you're just thinking that everything is great, or becoming hard, you know. and losing that flexibility, that softness that the world needs from you. But it's about making sure that you know what's up, you know what's going on, how you're going to deal with it, educating yourself, becoming more attentive to your needs, to the needs of others, so that whenever life takes a turn south, you're ready to deal with whatever comes your way.
Wow. Stay ready. You don't gotta get ready. Thank you, MJ, so much. We
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. You're
oh,
such a wonderful host. Thank you. Thank you.
it was so much fun. I couldn't I'm like, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight and your energy. And I just want to thank our listeners for tuning in, tapping in, and we will see you at the top.